Ooh, they not gonna believe this shit.
All right, welcome to the first episode of First Cousins. I am Chris Hunter. This is my cousin Shaman Russell. He goes by Russell. You can call me Chris Hunter, whatever you want to do. Uh, we decided to build this because there's a lot of men that deal with issues in and out the home, uh, trauma, past traumas, and they don't know how to go through it. You know, we find comfort in conversing amongst each other and find it easier to deal with these things knowing that you got somebody that got your back. So that's the whole premise of this show here, is to show you guys the importance of family unity, coming together and dealing with your issues together. Is that pretty much about it, Lon?
That pretty much sums it up. I felt it was important for us to do this. One, Chris has been very integral in the past few months, past few weeks in my life. So just understanding the importance of having other anchors outside of, maybe your brother or your mother, your father. You have to find community in all sorts of ways. Definitely first cousins, right? Always going to have a bit of connection just because of how we grew up together. But the most important thing is, as men, we're still bond in life together and trying to get through this. And so just want to open up and share our thoughts, our traumas, our triumphs, most importantly, our failures.
100%. Just so people know, we're first cousins because my dad, your mom, uh, blood brother and sister, right?
Absolutely.
His mom's the baby. Uh, God rest her soul, my auntie, and my dad is the second oldest. Is he second oldest?
Yeah, he's second.
Yeah,
Yeah.
possibly second oldest, George Hunter. But we're gonna get right into the content. Make sure you guys please like, comment, and subscribe. Any questions that you would want asked, we're gonna be doing this on the regular. So instead of all that nonsense content people be listening to, who fell, who got shot, who got arrested, like let's do something to edify each other. Let's do something to build each other up. All right. So we're gonna get deep, as personal as we want to, just to show you guys we're human and you guys aren't the only ones going through what you're going through. All right. I'm gonna kick it off. Actually, my cousin. First question. Uh, let's do it somewhat light but hard. All right. I watched you work three jobs at one time. If I'm not mistaken, I believe your wife had lost her job at the time. You worked three jobs to make sure that your family sustained everything. You commuted to all three, if I'm not mistaken. And my question is, this is actually a two-part question. Uh, what drove you, and what conversations did you have with yourself while you was on that grind?
Well, coming from, first of all, I think that's the benefit that we have as blacks coming from a less fortunate childhood and background. We know how to struggle.
Hmm.
So you know how to do without, far as having, and chasing the Joneses, coming from where I came from, we can compete. So I never developed a desire to compete in that manner. So conversations I had with myself to keep myself going. One of the things I realized coming from, again, not having abundance of things, we didn't go without eating. We had shelter over our heads, but again, we didn't have the name brand clothing. We couldn't do the things that other kids were doing. So in that learning how to struggle, one of the things I realized is it's just as hard as it's as hard to figure out how to do things and to do the right things to put yourself in a position to not struggle. It's the same. It takes the same amount of energy to struggle. So I just had to pick a side.
Hmm.
So for me, I knew struggling was hard, and I knew not to struggle was going to be hard. they're both hard. So pick your poison.
Mm.
I chose the other side of hard, and I did understand at a young age that on the other side of hard, there's always goodness. There's always, I believe, blessings on the other side of hard, and a lot of folks can't see past that, can't get to that point because of emotions, feelings, trauma, and other things. But for me, just understanding that both routes was hard, I just picked my poison. So those conversations I had with myself every day that it was hard driving those, commuting, getting on the freeway, um, it that was hard, but it would be harder to figure out. Okay, I got three daughters and a wife. How I'm gonna pay this bill? How I'm gonna pay that bill? Right. So both sides are hard. I just chose the commute.
It's heavy. Wow.
Absolutely.
Wow.
So, for me, I guess, just so you guys understand the cadence of how we're going to do this is we're just going to kind of bounce back and forth between one another. So I'm going to pop a question for him. Hopefully I answered in his question. But for me, looking at your life, you're in your now 40s,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, 43.
A lot of failure, a lot of things you did right. Based on where you're at now and understanding the man that you became, which I completely admire today, what would you have told your 20-year-old self when you were 20? What, based on what you know now, right? Not what you knew then, what you know now. What would you have told your 20-year-old self?
Well, I've told my 20-year-old self, read more. uh, read more. And I say that not lightly because, we kind of gloss over, oh, knowledge is power. This is 1,000% true. And if we all say this, if I knew then what I know now, oh, I'll be a lot further ahead. Well, that's the cheat code. If a person dives into, and I'm not talking about just school knowledge, book knowledge, I'm not talking about that. I mean, whatever it is that you desire to do, and if you don't know what you need to do, you need to get around people that are doing things progressively better than what you're doing.
Absolutely.
I grew up under you, and although we only a couple years apart, I seen the way you strove in life. I seen your steps, and I said, you know what? I'm gonna go in that direction. Now, no, I did make some mistakes. I did mess up. I did bump my head a lot because I was trying to figure things out. But now that I'm 43 years old, if I didn't have a role model, or if my circle was as small as it was then, but the pressures that I felt back then, I would have just simply dove in the books. I would have simply educated myself more. Not to begin a career, because I don't think that's solely freedom neither. But to one, escape. They say the devil's idle mind is the devil's playground.
Absolutely.
So if a person educates themselves and find more about their history and find out more about medicine and find out more about foods, these things are very interesting to me to this day.
Absolutely.
And I find that the more and more I learn, the more and more I see myself grow, and the more I see that I can pass down to my son. If I don't have any experiences, be it live vicariously through education, knowledge, books, or personal experiences, or vicariously through somebody else, I don't have anything to pass down to him. This is the, and I don't want to get off track, but this is what I feel is the trap with struggle and debt. I don't. Let me preface this right, because I don't like ragging on my parents. They did the best they could, and I love them to death.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But they had to figure out how to take care of these 4 kids in the home. They had to figure out how to transport us wherever we was going, because we didn't have a car at one time. We had to get on RTD. You remember that?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Rough, tough, and dangerous.
Rough, tough, and dangerous, right? Transfers and trying to go wash clothes and trying to go to the grocery store and You look up, it's nighttime, it's time to go to sleep. So they had very little information they could impart on us. But if I was 20 years old with the knowledge that I have now, oh man, I would have hit the books a lot harder than what I obtained from public school. And I think that would have allowed me to grow faster, sooner, and given me more of an edge to give to my son than any other young man or young lady that I came across.
Absolutely, absolutely.
That would be my question. That would be my answer to that. Uh, let's get a little heavy. They don't really know you, Russ. They don't really know you. I call you mine. I can't. This is my cousin, man. You know what I'm saying? But to the people out there, he goes by Russ. Outstanding man, and I'm not just saying that because it's my cousin, but it's one of the strongest men I've seen. God put something in this dude that a lot of men just ain't even built like this. It's just what it is. It's not about bravado and strength. Just I don't know. It's tenacity, it's will. Some days I don't see how he just gets up. Which leads to my next question. Uh, you've experienced more loss than most people could imagine. Your mother, you lost your mother. You lost your father.
Yep.
You lost your brother. You lost both your grandparents. I literally watched this man bury his mom and his brother. Yet you stand. What kept you going through all the grief and pain?
So for me, I understand that grief, um, sadness, all of that is it's a form of emotion. Um, because I have been raised in a complex environment at times, right? Blended family, meaning in my household there was four of us, but actually, one, two, yeah, four of us. Out of the four, my dad wasn't, Shalonda, my brother Lawrence, and my sister Shalonda. That wasn't their father, so there was some dynamics there that was a little tough and rough. Um, but one thing that I saw throughout my entire family, I want to give homage to my mom. Number
Yes.
one,
Yes.
um, may she rest in peace. I saw her under miscarriages, under rough marriage. Brother was out, he was gang banging. Sister was doing her thing with some of her challenges. Little brother had asthma. I mean, we used to live at Children's Hospital, all the time because he was always sick. But yet I watched her persevere. We still had dinner every night. She cooked. And these are under all of these circumstances with limited resources, as you taught. I grew up on AFDC. My mom was on the county. So learning how to, I think what I saw in my mom was, and I anchor to this as a man today is, um, whether you male or female, successful adults learn at some point how to separate their feelings from what must be done, right? So my feelings doesn't dictate my purpose. My purpose is my purpose. So no matter how I feel, I anchor to what is my purpose. And that's kind of how I've been able to stay afloat. Right now, my purpose, I believe I'm called to be the best man and father and husband I can be to my family. So with that, I don't have the ability to take those days off, to take those moments off. My responsibilities keeps me going. It now I will say there's days that it's extremely difficult because I don't care who you are and how focused on your responsibility you are. You're human. You get weak, you get tired, but that's okay. That's gonna happen. When you get weak and tired, you just want to make sure you're surrounded by the right people. Yeah, you're in the right circle so that when you can't hold yourself up, they can kind of build you up. And so, um, I would say it's been a collective effort between how I was raised and seeing what my mom went through and how she was able to persevere through. And then in addition to that, developing the growth mindset for myself and also understanding if I ever get anything done, it's not going to be based on how I feel. Um, I always look at um, people that I admire that are great, right? Whether it be some of my mentor, Pastor Gaucher, right?
Yeah,
Um, Mama McGee, who was very integral in my life. They weren't who they were because it was easy. They weren't who they were because life was handed to them.
yeah.
They didn't feed into me because they didn't have their own kids. They did have their own kids, right? But their purpose superseded their feelings, and they were able to lean in and do things. And when I looked at how they did them, it was sometimes under distress. It was sometimes when they were in their feelings, but they were able again to successfully separate their feelings to their purpose. And that is how I keep going. I am just trying to fulfill my purpose.
Mm, mm, mm. Y'all should call that a bar. Yeah.
So, I mean, so my next question for you, this is more in, again, as you have evolved in your new endeavors that you're doing in your entrepreneurship and how you are looking at things and doing things. I would like you to tap in and lean into what advice you told me what you would tell a young 20-year-old Chris. What advice would you give a youngster coming from Compton right now? And not really, I'm not going to cap it at age 20, just a young man specifically, right? Because this is June 30th, the last day of mental health for men,
Yeah.
right? So I want to make sure we do a call out for that. What advice would you give a young black man coming from Compton in today's society right now? What would you tell him to do? Financial guidance, whatever.
Financial guidance, whatever. I would say this, and I have to tap back into myself, put myself back in those shoes, even in today's time. Stop feeling like it's something you have to get out of. Whatever struggle or whatever hardship that you think that those streets bring you. Stop feeling like it's a trap, you doomed. It's something you got to fight your way out of. Because the truth is this: I'm not gonna go too religious, but I know who I am. I know who I am as a person. I know who I am as a God. He said, "Let us make man in the likeness of our image." I'm a descendant of him, so there's nothing that I can't do. He said, "Greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world." So I would tap into that because growing up, and this, I'm still speak to the man today, young man today. But growing up then, it felt like, oh man, this was never gonna end. It felt like, is everybody broke? Is everybody going through? You know what I'm saying? Like, is everybody struggling? Right? You remember that? We go down. I'm just saying.
Is everybody daddy driving a station wagon?
Everybody daddy. You know what I'm saying? Like this can't be my reality, right? But at the same time, it was more good days than bad. Then once you, I don't want to say this level like I'm just doing it like that, but once you crack the code, once you begin making money, coming from where we came from, there's no way in the world we should be making 6 figures a year. That's just
absolutely.
That's just unheard of from where we come from.
Absolutely.
You know, so I would tell that young man today, man, look at all the options. Look at everything, man. Just because dude over there selling, slaying whatever he's slaying, that don't mean that that's your only option.
Yeah.
The music nowadays, it pushes pornography, and it pushes homosexuality. It pushes hoes, sluts, and pimping, and they glamorize these things. But I would tell that young man today, man, you got to step back, look at everything tap into that inner self, that inner God, and make your own decisions. That's the thing about a man. You gotta know when to lead. You also gotta know when to follow.
Absolutely.
So regardless of what everybody else is doing, I don't mean you gotta go that way. I grew up in a gang infested neighborhood. Love them dudes to death. Campanella Park. Pirate. Love them dudes.
CPT, baby.
Grew up with all of them. Some of my homeboys went to school with, died, been to their funerals, all that. Mossberg,
Absolutely.
all of them.
Yeah.
But yet still that just wasn't my thing. I wasn't. And the main reason is this. It's crazy how what we got. It's a 222. Both our moms had. I'm still on topic, but both our moms had a daughter and two sons. I mean, excuse me, and three sons. And if I'm not mistaken, it's very close proximity. All of our ages are like 2 years apart, almost 2 years apart.
Very, very close.
Me and him are the second to the last.
Yep.
We both have one younger brother under us. Craziest thing ever, right? So, with me and my protection to my baby brother, that's probably the only reason why I never gangbang. I got two older brothers that did gangbang. This is, with dad outside of the marriage of my mom. But I saw what they did. In fact, it was intriguing to know that you had all these homeboys, like everybody love you. This is a young man's eyes.
Yep.
Coming from a foster home, I saw my brother, my oldest brother Derek, when I first met him. Never forget this. That's mine. Man, he taught me how to hustle. I love him to death. That's my boy. But when I first saw him, he was in a all-white, big-body S500 Benz. And it was 1994, I believe. And he had the 95.
Wow.
And I'm like, this is my brother? I want that. So, and he'll tell you, he'll be on there, he'll tell you that, everything that glitter ain't gold. So, what I would tell that young man that's in Compton right now, be you. Forget what everybody else is going through. Strive to be you. Don't shame your family's name. Build on that. Build your tribe. Because them same dudes that know me, that I ain't never gangbang with, nothing, these dudes love me to death. They know me. They know my pops. They know my mama. They know Granny and them right off Lennon.
That's right.
Man, come on. These dudes know us, like, for real. And I ain't never had to gangbang a day in my life. You know what I'm saying? I ain't never had to go out and do harm that I could never take back from another African American brother. I ain't never had to do any of those things. So I would tell that young brother in Compton right now, if you on a skateboard, if you an artist, if you a musician, if you a comic, do the fuck you. Excuse me, I'm trying to stop cussing, man. But I mean that though.
Keep it authentic.
I mean that. Do you, and let this be your testament to those that are behind you.
Yeah,
that's what I'll tell you.
I like that, man. And just before you move on, man, I want to just kind of interject there. I like where you went with that, because with hip hop, social media, Facebook, Instagram, all these social media platforms, it's so many influences out there to be other than you.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Just it's crazy. And then on top of that, one of the things I want you guys to understand is, we come from, I was born in Inglewood, raised in Compton, Paramount. We didn't come from those great neighborhoods, and so we know what it is. We know what it is, and we, to his point, have been able to make some good decisions in our life and made some bad decisions in our life. But both him and I sit right here as young black men. I still consider myself young, so although I'm in my 40s, making six figures. But the most important thing is, I want you guys to anchor to is, we came from where you came from. I don't have a college degree in education and background. I came from blood, sweat, and tears.
Yes, sir.
Doing the integrity, doing the right thing when no one is looking, outworking any man that's standing next to me. You may have a college degree over me, but you will never outwork me, right?
Beat this
So
hustle.
that's personal attitude that I took on for myself. But last, before we move on, I want to encourage you. There's a there's specific things that you have to do, and this is one of the most important. The company that you keep, right, is super critical to what your future endeavors are.
Yes.
And I say this in this manner: if you want to be a teacher, right, hanging out with drug dealers ain't gonna get you there.
Mm,
They can't tell you what it is to do the college classes and courses, right, that is necessary.
right.
All the things, whatever it took them to get there, a drug dealer can't tell you. If you want to be a doctor,
Hmm.
hanging out with a lifeguard ain't going to help you, right?
Right.
You need to go. So, whatever you aspire to be, make sure that you surround yourself with people and always have someone to aspire to be, right? You always want to have someone that you can look up to in those fields that, again, you can go humble yourself, always be in a student-like mentality to say, hey, that person know it. I'm going to make sure I treat them right, and I'm going to ask questions. But again, I encourage you guys, whatever it is that you want to be, make sure within your circle, you have someone that has obtained that, or someone that's striving to obtain the same thing, right? Because that is going to help propel you, even even in those times and those days that you want to give up or you don't have the energy to keep going. Making sure you have like-minded people or someone that
Yeah.
accomplished that, that is so helpful for you. I'm telling you, just make sure, check your circle, check your circle.
Oh my God. See, these are jewels. That's why I want to sit down with my big cousin, man, because I man, I look at social media and I take it from an entrepreneurial stance, and I'm always studying, and there's far more entertainment content than there is educational content, and we wonder why our youth aren't being built to be the men and women that they're supposed to be today.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This right here, this is what the elders used to do in the tribes. It had to come from mouth to ear.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'm hoping you guys keep catching up on this. So I'm gonna move on because this one right here is this one deep. A little backstory once again. We always two peas in the pod. It's crazy. Uh, we both were called to preach at one point. Were you 16? What age were you?
14.
You were 14. I was 16. I came after him. I was 16 when I was called to what they say called to preach. That's another episode. We'll tap in on that. But I mean, literally, we both ran the pulpit for years, right? Uh, and we experienced what they call church hurt. It's cool, man. At a very young age, you know, seen some things, heard some things that was just unfathomable. That I wouldn't say knocked us off our square, but definitely had us looking at church and everything else different. Uh, had us move different. I seen us both shift from religion to relationship. What caused that for you?
Um, you know, just point blank life, right? So there's a point to where you can get to in life, and I think many men and women can relate to this, to where, you know, things can get so difficult and so hard because we live in this flesh. So becoming overwhelmed is something that can happen. And so I would say when I understood, it wasn't about, again, the hooper and the hollering. It wasn't about if I went to church 15 times in 1 week. It wasn't about when I hit life pavement. None of those things were able to sustain me. None of those things were able to build me up, right? Now there is I first want to take responsibility, okay, as a man. Although there was church hurt, I take responsibility for my foundation not being built properly. And what I mean by that is your foundation have to be word based. It's not about emotion, a feeling. Your resolve, what you stand on, has to be based on a biblical foundation and understanding and truth. And so, if you remove all the religious practices out, right, and you have um, a faulty foundation, when life hits you,
Mm,
you're going to feel it and you're going to be exposed. And I will also tell you there's a difference between going through life in God's protection and outside of his protection, right?
mhm.
I've experienced that. And so it became more relation based because the relationship is what drives my behavior. Think about it when you first start courting a girl or your wife, right?
Right. Mhm.
You your flaws, your whatever it is, you're gonna manage it to whatever degree you have to
Try and get her.
because of her, right? And when you get her, right, and now you're married, the love that you have for her is what sustains you through the hard times. It what gets you through the arguments. It's what can um, allow you to love her, even though you may not agree on everything or every issue, right? And so when I allowed the church hurt to deter me and to distract me, the reality was it exposed I just didn't have enough love for God at that point, right? I just didn't have a great enough relationship with God at that point because if I did, right, it would have allowed me to see past. First of all, the Bible says, for all have sinned and come short. So I don't care if you go to church 15, 20, 30 times. The Bible also says, in this flesh dwells no good thing. So our nature, our human nature is corrupted. And so, which means at times we will falter, we can fail. Now, whether or not it sway you or whether or not it moves you or calls you to fall, to me, that would be based on what is your foundation. You look at any house, right? No matter how high you build it up, no matter what you put inside there, no matter if it's cheap stuff, good stuff, no matter if it's 3 stories, 4 stories, 5 stories, the durability in the whether or not that house would last is not based on what was put in and not what was built up. It's going to be based on how strong is that foundation.
That's true.
Right.
That's true.
And so for me, the church hurt again. I want to be very clear and take responsibility for myself. Right. It exposed my lack of relationship with God. Now, fast forward to today. I'm not saying I believe there are religious practices that are healthy just based on human factors, right? To abstain for certain things and not to overindulge in this, right? There's things that we can do religiously that are helpful. But what I don't want people to ever to misconstrue anymore is your spirituality and your relation is not based on your religious practices. An actor can act out anything and do it religiously, right? You can get an actor, you see them sometimes, they act it out, they're preaching, they're doing all, they're not a preacher, right? So anybody can do those things, but at the end of the day, when it gets to, again, to church hurt, when it gets to when you fall and you can't, see your way, or you just don't know how to get out of something, right? Your relationship and the foundation of that relationship will dictate how you get through. So to answer your question, man, it was, again, life that hit me, exposed where I was, and that now drives where I need to be and want to be, and that is all within relation. I don't need the church for me to pray. I don't need the church for me. Now, I do believe the church have a place because the Bible says, forsake not to assemble yourself. We're not meant to do this life on our own.
That's true.
You should be surrounded by people that love him. you should want to be around people that love him, right? So I do believe it have its place, but your salvation is not in that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, let me camel back on that real quick, and this ain't to step on your wisdom, because one thing that people don't know, we very young when we I don't want to say step away from the church, because church is always in your heart. Ain't these buildings, right?
Yeah.
And I converted to Islam myself. That's a deeper story, but faster than what it is. Islam is not a religion. Islam solely means to be it means peace. Uh, uh, Muslim is somebody that submits to the will of God. That's it. These cards are Muslim, this bench is Muslim, this camera is Muslim. It's all doing what God made it to do. This ain't no Christian back and forth thing, none of that. But I see things that I have to say personally that I've witnessed my Muslim brothers just don't get. Why? Because I had that Christian background. You can't tell me the things that I saw in the church ain't true. You can't tell me the things that I experienced personally in the church wasn't true. You know what I'm saying? Period. I've spoken in tongues myself, but in the way I'm explaining it, it was like, oh my God, what is this? But it was coming out, blah, 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 blah. Like, oh my God, am I really speaking in tongues? Blah, 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 blah. Like, so I can't fake that, and I can't denounce what happened there.
Well
I
said.
think everything is in stages and degrees. Let me say it like that. But with the accountability part, right? Because we were so young, back to the word, once again, this is what's taught in Islam. Learn all the books. We obey all the books. We follow all the books. The Bible says, train up a child in the way that they should go. When they get old, they should not depart.
Absolutely.
The problem is, I feel like the people in the church ain't training up children in the way that they should go. Don't force feed me all of these memory verses. That ain't gonna help us when we get out here, right? That's what happened. I could quote the Bible backwards and forwards. What does that do for you when you get pulled over by the police and the first thing they do is they got they gun out? What is that? What do you do? Lord forbid, you find out some adult man is trying to touch your daughter. How does the body? Train up a child means literally that. We should be dieting right. We should be exercising. We should be studying more than just the Bible. Of course, the Bible, of course, the Quran, of course, the Torah. But what else? We should be studying physics. We should be studying science. We should be studying medicine. We should be learning about herbs. That's proper training.
Absolutely.
And I could go deeper, but I feel like at 17, 18, when I started departing from the physical church, had I been trained up more and not seeing Deacon out there smoking, right? The crackhead on the third pew that everybody know, and they give him the offering plate and just give him something to do, and give him pass after pass after pass. You know what I mean? Misappropriation of funds in the church, not just deacon, pastor. You know what I'm saying? I'm keeping it a buck.
Yeah.
Like, if we had been trained truly and how we supposed to be, and then we came up against our trials, we would have had the decision would have been more so on us, because you got the proper training.
Now, I'll take that. I do agree with that to an extent. I believe the first responsibility to train and to teach, right, is in the home.
1,000.
Right? The first priest should be the man in that home.
1,000%.
Okay, so now to your point, that man has been impacted by the same thing, right? No one has poured into him, but at the same time, when it come down to a church is only comprised of what? Families.
That's it.
Right? That makes up any church, any community, any organization. I don't know, Jehovah's Witness, Mother, right? Is comprised of families. And so part of, I believe, the devil's work, right, has been to remove, not from just a systemic, spiritually remove the man from the family, right? With that, there's a level of protection. There's a level of chaos that will come, right? And so in addition to that, when you're talking about those that are less fortunate, right, there are so many distractions, whether it be poverty, you know, how do I get food on the table and all these things. So I know, for instance, my parents, let me be personal, my parents and my dad, right? He wasn't the one that will pull us in and pray, right? He wasn't the one, he would take us to church because my dad sang, he could sing. Charles Russ could sing his head off. He loved, that was his service, right? He loved to sing. So he took us to church, and so we did that. But, you know, again, I can't ever remember my dad quoting the scripture to me, giving me encouragement with the scripture, or just praying and all these things, right? So anyway, I say that to say this again, and I'm go back to when I see the church as a whole, I don't hold them completely accountable because, again, I know that in this flesh, the world knows a good thing. And again, we all have sin. But I also know the responsibility. The Bible says, suffer not one of my children, right? So there's a level when you are saved, you have an accountability to live your life in a certain way that it doesn't lead other people astray or impact their perception of who God is and what he is, because you're claiming God and then you living on any old kind of way, right?
Yeah.
But so I would go there on the family structure. Now, fast forward to me today, because I knew that and I believe that and I know that, right? I'm intentional with my girls. And to your point, when you say, what can that scripture do? I teach my girls faith, right? Um, my my spirituality is very much faith-based. Most people don't understand how much faith we put into just every day that we get up, right?
Right.
So much we put into faith. Think about, so the way I teach my girls, and again, this is, I wasn't taught this, I wasn't exposed to this. I do teach them scripture because, and I do teach them when you are stressed, like for instance, Angel, she's in college, very stressful classes. She took chemistry and biology in the same quarter, right? Beat her up. There were times that she could not see how she was going to make it through those classes. She couldn't see, based on her lack of understanding of the instructions coming from the teacher, the material. There was times that she has so much doubt, right? What did I do as a father? I did what wasn't done for me. Hey, Angel, the Bible says greater is he is this in you than he that's in the world. So that means that test, that means that instructor, whatever challenge you may have, greater is he that's in you, right? You believe God. I know you pray, right? You just got to understand that that greatness supersedes any challenge that we have here in this world. And if you can believe, right? If you can just have faith and believe that, number one, you feel different. You go through life different. And the way I get her to understand faith is this. Think about this, man. People have a hard time grasping on to faith and living out faith, but we do it in so many small ways. When you get in your car and you turn it on, who told you pushing and turning that ignition was going to start the car?
Yeah. Promise. Yeah.
Right? It's not a promise. When you go to switch the light switch. Here's another. If you, when you have sinuses, right, in your nasal congestion, you get congested, right? What are you gasping for?
Yeah.
Air.
Oxygen.
Can you see it?
Cannot.
Can you feel it?
I don't. Oh yeah, you can feel it.
Yeah. You can feel it, right? You can feel the breeze, right? But you can't see it.
Can't see it.
You can't grab it.
No, you can't grab it.
Right? But you depend on it so much. Right? If you remove that, you're gone.
Yeah, true.
Right? If, let's say, you start gasping for air, or you can't breathe right now. I guarantee you, Chris, naturally, because it happened to me here 2 days ago. I don't know what happened. Just all of a sudden, I couldn't breathe. And I was sitting right next to the wife, and I'm doing all these motions, right? Gasping for something I can't see.
Can't even grab.
I can't even see. So,
wow.
Now, I only say that to say this. In this life, sometimes you got to see beyond the natural eye, because if you don't, it'll overwhelm you.
Mhm.
If you don't, you'll become sick. A lot of the stress that black folks and black men go through, right? I believe a lot of my health bouts has come through because of stress and whatnot. So I now again are is anchoring myself back to the word of God. So even when things are looking crazy,
Mhm.
I am believing, not because someone told me, not because I heard, it's because I read what his word said. I have faith that his word is true, right? And so that has allowed me, and again, to back to answering your question, as far as what does it do for me in my household, it allows us to tap into that faith based on anchoring to what we read and what we believe based on the God that we serve, versus being completely succumbing to our natural eye and what we see. I think you said it earlier. If you look at us, no one would have thought we would be where we are today.
Right, 1,000%, 1,000%.
If you do the math, it didn't say it was going to compute to,
Right.
you know what I mean? And
That was a
so
long shot.
you feel me? And I think to your point, because we both have that background, and we both have spiritual convictions, right? Yours is coming from Islamic teaching, right?
Mm-hmm.
Still believing in God,
Uh-huh.
right? And still having a spiritual relationship with your God,
Mm-hmm.
right? And in that is, whether you understand it or not, and I know you do, how you move, talk, walk, and the things that you're prospering and the things you're doing, it's because of I believe, your relationship with your God.
1,000%, 1,000%, 1,000%. Man, you dipped all in my pot.
My
You knocked out like 4, 5 more questions, man. You dipped all in my pot.
I think it's my question now, right? My bad. So, I mean, my next question for you would be, I want to go current times.
All right.
And this I think is be very important for the audience to understand what our perspective is, being a black man and being a black man in America in these days and times. Recently, in current news, there was a young boy that had been beaten to death. Now, contrary to what we normally see in the media, it's typically white officers killing, one of us. Obviously, we've developed Black Lives Matter, other movements throughout time, because of the lack of equality between blacks, whites, and other races, right?
Yeah.
So I found this story to be very unique, and I'm very interested in what your take is. This case, it was black officers,
Mm-hmm.
right? That beat a young black boy, and he died, and the black officers were acquitted of all charges in wrongdoing.
Yep.
Now, one thing that I noticed in monitoring the news, the media, one, I didn't see the outrage. I didn't see no outrage. I didn't see any protesting from Black Lives Matter or anybody of
Right.
that. The church. I just didn't see the level of intention that is normally generated when it's white officers against blacks. So, as a black man, do you see that any different, or do you feel it's any different than if it was for white officers? And are you just as, I think I can use the word outrage with our own community, that we pick and choose when a life is worth protesting for? Is it okay that there were black officers? And would it not been okay if it had been white officers? Or isn't it just the fact that there was a life lost and taken from whomever, and they should be held accountable?
This Negro trying to get us canceled already.
You went deep. I figure I go deep.
He went deeper on me. I'm gonna take this angle on it because I've done a lot of studies. I'm kind of different. I feel that God has opened up my eyes to a lot of things that a lot of people are going to catch up to. The elders would say before our years, right? So let me try to find an example. I'm hoping this will be good enough. Right here. Let's try this. Let's try this. All right. Follow me. What color is this?
Like, it's brown.
This is brown. I would agree. This is brown. I'm gonna show you the trick of the enemy with this right here. Right? Unequivocally. I would say most of our viewers would say this is stick. I just picked up. Y'all saw me. Not a prop. I just pulled off the leaves. Not dyed. This is Mother Nature. This is brown. Right? We'll say that without doubt, right? People will call you and I a black man. But you can clearly see that my tone is not too much further than that. Right? I can even go a little darker.
Yeah, almost a perfect match.
Almost a perfect match. And we will say that this is this black?
No, that ain't black.
This ain't black at all, right?
No.
We call this, what color would you call that?
That's like a dark brown.
It's like a dark brown. I would say this is brown too.
Yeah.
My shirt is black.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is brown. So let me show you the trick of the enemy. The trick of the enemy would have us to pit, first and foremost, white against black.
Yep.
I ain't never seen a white man this color, first of all. I'm just saying. But you don't never hear anyone talking about, oh, the yellow man against the red man, right?
Nope.
What is yellow man? What do they say a yellow man is? Asian?
we call light-skinned brothers yellow.
Right. Yeah, that too. Red man, they'll say is attributed to Indians.
Mm-hmm.
Black man, they say it's you and I. White man is who they say is Caucasian people. That's the trick of the enemy. Back to your question though. This was simple. Granny say right is right, wrong is wrong.
Oh, I like it. Go ahead. I'm Mr. Granny. Archie Burrow.
I don't care what the color, because there's no such thing as color. We're human. Hue is colors. Human. We're not dogs or species. It's not giraffes. We're not rhinoceroses. We are not from the plants and herbs. We got 4 limbs. Those that haven't had amputations or things of that nature are just born with a deformity, but we are definitely human.
Absolutely.
So to them so-called peacemakers, because that's what an officer is supposed to be.
Absolutely.
They didn't get away with that because you gotta pay for anything that you put out there. They call it karma. Is it called karma?
Karma.
Yeah, it may not come back on you, but you may wonder why. Dang, man, my mama just got cancer. Or why was my baby stillborn? Like, there's no escaping that. Especially if you was up under the orders of somebody else that you think is your master or above you. You got to pay for that. They got to pay for that too, for putting that negative energy out there.
Absolutely.
And I speak to this because I don't like for understanding purposes, I say, oh yeah, I'm a black man, just because of the audience that I speak to. But the knowledge of it is we're not crayons. Like I'm not. You're not white. I'm not black.
Yeah.
You're not red. You're not yellow. You're not none of that. back in the olden days, you would go by your nationality, where you were from. Let me go a little bit further. Follow me. Even within that nationality, you would go amongst the tribe you were from. Let me go a little bit further. You would go to the last name of that tribe, but let me go a little bit further. You would go through the bloodline.
Absolutely.
And that's still true today, but it's just hit. It's still hit. Why you think it's only A positive, B positive, O
So many.
positive?
Yeah. You only have
It's
so many.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
Makes
So,
sense to me.
You can't tell me that you are a different creed of people from me, and I'm a different creed of people from you. That, come on, man.
Hey, I just real quick, I'll let you finish. You can do a test, right? Do this. If you had a Mexican on the roof, black man on the roof,
Mm-hmm.
Chinese man on the roof,
Mm-hmm.
Korean on the roof,
Mhm.
white man, right?
Mm-hmm.
And let's say they're 5 stories high,
Mm-hmm.
and they jump off. They all jump off the roof,
Mm-hmm.
right? Number one, I think it's safe to assume the probability of any of them surviving is slim to none,
Slim enough.
which will probably paint the picture that there is no superior race.
No man is superior.
Right? Secondly, if you could tell me one of them, when they crack open, is going to bleed out any other color than red, you can convince me that we're different. You could tell me humankind is not the same, but I guarantee you, when we hit that pavement, when we take our last breath, whether you white, black, Asian, that process is going to look the same.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that is where we have our commonalities, and secondly, I don't think there's any race that can survive without water or air.
Mm-hmm.
We are more common than we are different.
Far more
The
common.
enemy uses those race in that to divide us,
Right.
because the Bible says what a house divided cannot stand.
Can I?
So if you can add division, right, then you don't have people uniting, and that is the last thing the enemy wants us to do, is to unite.
Mm-hmm.
And that's whether it's Mexican, black, brown, white, black, right?
100%.
If we can just look at the fact that we are all the same, and to help one another figure out how to get through this life, right? This difficult life, things would be so much better. But again, I like how you went with that, man. So finish off, my bad.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you jumped in there. They need to hear that. But to the point of the, like I said, the so-called peace officers, they dead wrong. They got everything ill coming to them that they deserve.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna say it like this. This literally right-handed guy just happened to me last week. Caucasian woman that was homeless. I don't like belittling anyone. I'm not gonna call nobody no bum, no trans. I don't do that. I don't care who he is, man. My parents didn't raise me like that. I'm not gonna dog any human being. But this Caucasian lady, she was homeless, and she was in a wheelchair, and I see her getting ready to come ask me for some money. Right now, no, I've been at this gas station umpteen times, 11 times. She ain't never asked me for nothing. So on this day, she decides to come ask me for something as I'm pumping my gas, getting ready to go in. So I asked her like this. She said, "Excuse me, could you get me a Coca-Cola?" That's what she wants. She wanted a Coca-Cola. I said, "Okay, sure." She said, "Can you get me the can?" I'm like, "All right, no problem." She said, "No, matter of fact, can you get me the tall fountain, the fountain?"
Oh,
one?"
gotcha.
I said, "You put me to work." That's the first thing I said. And she smiled like, I said, "All right, I got you." She said, "Oh, and some, what did she ask for?" She asked for some, because it's hard for me to find, some mesquite chips. I said, "Oh, you definitely need to put me to work." I said, "Don't worry about it. I got you." It's how people prejudge, but I was raised different. I be looking for those blessings. That's what people need to do.
Absolutely.
They line you up for another blessing. You got, man, y'all keep stepping on
pay
people.
attention.
Watch what up. But I think she digs in her bosom. I forget what she did, but she pulls out these ones. She had money. She pulled out probably close to $10. I'm like, oh, damn, she could buy her own thing. I said, what's the problem? They don't like women? She said, it's the girl. She be acting all like, I said, don't worry about it. I got you. I go in there, I get her Coke. She didn't want no ice because she wanted as much Coke as she wanted. And I'm looking all over the store for this mesquite chips. Couldn't find them. I mean, I'm spending a good 10. My gas been at stop. I spent a good 10 minutes up in there trying to get this woman exactly what she wanted, right? So I finally settled on barbecue, close as I could get to it, and I buy it. And I was thinking while in the midst of that, I said, dang, it's a test. I didn't realize it while I was going through it, but I was like, dang, this is a test. The cashier failed. You know, she treated this woman like she was something not equal to her just because she was down on her luck. You know what I mean? Whereas I was blessed to pass that test. I came out with her chips. I came out with her soda. She wasn't trying to tuck it and go back in and get her cash back. None of that. She immediately opened the chips and began scarfing them down. This woman was hungry, man.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And I felt so good to be able to do that. So back to the question, especially these dudes that took one of God's preachers. That's God, baby. Them boys took, man.
Yep.
They gotta pay for that. But that is there's no small or little sin, there's no big sin, none of that. That same lady that overstepped this homeless lady has to deal with her sin just as well. That's just my belief. You know what I mean? Treat everybody the same, man. This color thing it's all fake because at the end of the day, everybody knows what's going on in this country. Everybody feeling it.
Yep.
Economically. Everybody.
Yep.
I don't care who you is. It's 1%. Ain't none of us in.
You see black people protest.
Straight up. That's just what it is. But yeah, man, they got what they coming. Let's move on, man. Only a couple more, and I don't mind this dialogue. I look at a lot of different podcasts. A lot of them talk about gossip. They spend 2-3 hours talking about gossip, and like I said, I think it's far more important to tap into people that's actually going through these kind of things. Like, dang, I was thinking about saying that same thing, man. These brothers is real. So once again, this content, this is all the time, man. We decided to come to a park. We want to get out the studio. I miss this. This reminds me of growing up, going to the park. We want to go ball hoop. He always been tall. Throw him an alley-oop. You know what I'm saying? I'm looking like I'm shining.
Although he got me in these jeans today, thinking I had to be professional.
He thought he was gonna be in the studio. So let's move on. Got the church hurt out the way. I got like two more for you. Maybe three, two more. Health battles. You brought that up earlier when you was in my pot. I think it's important because definitely there's a lot of people that's dealing with their own health issues today. And I've seen you go through a lot of personal health issues. But yeah, you've endured. What would you say was your lowest moment while battling that? And how did you pull through it?
Woo, the lowest moment had to be September 21st, 2023. So I have what you call diverticulitis, small holes on the lining of your colon. It can be triggered or inflamed by food, eating the wrong foods. Any small particles can get caught in there. So I've had it since my pop passed. He passed in 2012. I would say around 2013, I was diagnosed with it. They actually thought it was my appendix. Got set up for surgery. Was getting pushed down to get cut on, and there was a shift change, and another doctor came on and looked at the same images and said, "Nah, that ain't your appendix. It's diverticulitis, right?" And so ever since then, I've been living with it. Now, the health issues I was encountering with that, it wasn't too impactful to my life. I would say from 2012 up until 23. I would have what you call episodes every other year, maybe, to where I ate something that got me inflamed. And what happens is, as the food try to pass through, it causes infections and tears. And then at that point, you got to get on antibiotics, and hopefully you don't develop an abscess. Because if that bursts, leak out, you can die, become septic and die, right? And so I would say for about 8-9 years, I was managing well, just start cutting out corn, peanuts, anything that would, trigger me, I cut it out, right? It was kind of like a lesson learned. Well, in 23, let me say this. In 22, beginning of 22, I was probably about 255 pounds. I began to get just out of shape as I climbed in my career ladder, and the higher I went, the less boxes I touched, just the more overweight I became, and just became unhealthy. And so I went on this health sabbatical. I went on, basically cut carbs out, had high protein, high vegetables, lost about 40 pounds in about 6, 7 weeks. Um, After that, I transitioned to intermittent fasting, to where I eat between 12 and 9. I still maintain that today. I eat between 12 p.m. and 9. I try to make sure, again, I watch my intake. I do fruit bowls for my lunch. And then at the end, I'll have a good solid meal. Well, mind you, I just said I was managing pretty well for about 8 years, 9 years, when I wasn't worried about my health and my weight and all those things. And so um, I end up, January of 23, I ended up getting sick. Ended up in the hospital for the first time because of the diverticulitis. I developed an infection. Um, Typically, the infection will last about 1 week, 2 weeks at max, and then after that, you start to recover. You're still sore because of the infection for about a couple of months, but it goes away. Well, going into the second week, I just realized that I was not getting well. The normal process that it went through and you go through, I just couldn't beat it. And so I ended up in the hospital January 23, got out about a week and a half after that, end up taking some time to recover. Ended up back into the hospital, going back to answer your question, ended back in the hospital in September of 23. So less than 8 months later, I ended back up in the hospital for the same thing. January, I developed an abscess. September, I didn't, but I had already, the infection I developed in September was complicated because I hadn't fully healed from the infection in January. So back in the hospital again. Well, on the 21st is when I lost my mom. So while being in the hospital, physically not fit to do anything, laying in a hospital bed alone, getting the call that your mom passed. That was my lowest. How I got through that, it was, I think I kind of answered to this earlier, and it ties into an answer I gave earlier. Is, I'm responsible for. I'll tell you what drives me now. Um, the hurt that I experienced in losing my, I knew what losing my dad was, and that was, definitely impactful. Losing my mom, that was on a that was on a whole nother platform, because I think what a lot of people don't understand, for men and for women out there, for you guys to understand what a mother means to a man. A mother is the only woman on this earth that will love a man unconditionally. That's the only one. Your wife love is conditional. Your kids love is conditional. Let's just be honest. The only person that will love you past every fault, every downfall, every is your mother. So when I lost that, it was huge. And so being in the hospital, losing her, um, understanding how fragile I was, how close I could be, right, to that. I think what hit me was, and what drives me and keep me going now, and why I'm trying to eat the right things, and I have limited my drinking, I've limited this and that, is because I do not want my kids to experience this anytime soon. Like, that's what drives me. Like, I do not want them to have to feel what I'm feeling right now anytime soon. I took the responsibility to live so much more serious after losing my mom, understanding that it's you again. You will learn to live, and you will learn to do what you have to do. But that hurt, it never goes away. Like it never goes away. And so for me, as long as I can prolong my kids from having to experience it, and this is even my wife, her health, right? And her well-being. I'm trying to do all the things to help us live as long as we can. So again, my kids don't have to experience the depth of pain
Yeah.
that I'm feeling, even current. So that's what helps me keep to try to make the right decisions, to go to the black men, we don't like going to the hospital, but to go, um, even when I don't want to, even when I think I'm okay,
Get a check.
get it checked, man, because early detection is key. And just know when you make that decision to or not to, you're not just making that decision for yourself. Anybody that say they love you, anybody that counts on you, anybody that you're responsible to, you're making that decision for yourself and for them. So I've learned to become unselfish in my way of in the way that I look at my health. Right. My daughters, we're very, very, very close. I think Chris, will tell you.
Oh man.
We're very, very close. So, Angel at one point, which again, men, we have a responsibility to prepare our kids. And recently, I have a conversation with Angel, my middle child, and she was saying, if you leave, you can just count me out. Just go on and cut the cord. I'm not going to be able to make it without you. So that again, there's a positive and a negative there, right? My responsibility as a father is to prepare your kids, right? Whether you here or not there, right? The principles and the foundation that you lay, you have to prepare them for a day that you're not going to be around, because that's the reality of life. If you're lucky, your kids will bury you, right? So when she said that, I was able to acknowledge, take my flowers. I was felt blessed, but at the same time, I told her, look, as a father, I have to prepare you for that day, right? And it's not what happens on that day, it's everything that I do in between, right? We don't know when we're going to leave here or when we're not, right? So every day you got to get up, and every day you got to live a life of purpose. Every day you got to get up with a life of meaning and be intentional about what you do and what you not do. Because again, from the time that you're born, you begin to die. You just don't know how long, right? You just don't know when. So because of that factor, just make sure everything in between, every day, every hour, every minute, you give the best that you can. Learn as much as you can, to Chris' point, right?
Right.
So yeah, man, it's what drives me completely is I the responsibility to live for my children.
And I gotta add to his will and his push and his tenacity. Is something that he didn't bring up. But your mom had how many brain surgeries?
Man, so many I can't even count. She had so many surgeries between both of my parents. They had so many surgeries. It's crazy, yo. It was like, remember that what's that game used to Operations. Y'all remember that game? Every time I used to play that game, man, I used to think like, well, boy, my dad he had this operated on, my mom had that operated on. Like they cover the board, you know what I mean? So yeah, no, it was you know, and that's what's concerning for me in my health, right? I watched him go through health bouts, and now I'm going through my own. I know what that life looked like. I know what it is. So there's a level of fear that sometimes that I have, but at the end of the day, I anchor back to the God I serve, my responsibilities, and understanding that I didn't influence when I got here. I'm not going to influence when I go. All I can influence is what I do while I'm here. Absolutely.
Wow, that's great, man. So go get checked out, man. Your loved ones need you. If you ain't got that dust for that, please gather that.
Yep.
He said he didn't know when his mama was gonna go. She had surgery after surgery. Dad had surgery after surgery, and they went in their own time. And this man took that and said, you know what? I'm gonna be proactive and make sure I be around as long as I possibly can. God gonna cause me to call us, but anything that I can do within that time frame, that dash between birth and death, do as much as I can to be there for our children.
Absolutely. All right. Well, I got one last one for you, man, for the hoorah.
Yeah.
I mean, because I think a lot of things what we do and don't do today is driven by our intentionality to leave a certain impact on our family, those that we come across. So, last question I have for you is family legacy. When, again, I said that just a second ago, we're lucky our kids will bury us. Um, I can remember the things that I said at my mom's funeral, right? And obviously, again, if you were born, everybody's going to go through that process. At some point. And
Mhm.
what what are some of the things, mainly for your children, but not just restricted to your children? What is the legacy that you're trying to, and you're working as hard, and you're reading this, and you're trying to do this, and all these things that you're doing right now? What is the legacy you're trying to leave behind?
Legacy I'm trying to leave behind. Um, let me back up just a little bit, especially without putting numbers on it. I've touched a little bit of money in my life. I've touched, actually, even before now, I've touched a little bit of money, and blew it, messed up, got it back, blew it, messed up, got it back. And on this road right now, everything's not about money. That's not what I'm saying. But the legacy that I want to leave is the continuous of breaking generational curses economically, spiritually, physically. I want the generation behind me, and not even that, people out there. I want you guys to see the importance of building your family. Like when y'all speak about me at my funeral, I want y'all to say he was selfless. He did it for us. He woke us up. He wanted us to be like, you know what? Paradise is nothing alone. You know what I mean? Uh, I want to impart not only the financial juice, but the roadmap to get there. Like I teach my son kind of blunt, if you will, and I don't even know if it's the right way. You add to parenting, you know what it is. Like there's no book on parenting. Like you don't know what's right, what's wrong. We only could work with what we got. But I want to add to what my grandfather taught my father and what my father taught me. But on the financial aspect, I want my son to understand the importance of leveraging, purchasing assets, and building residual income so that he can have the time to impart more knowledge to his son and to his daughters. I don't want him trapped. And ain't nothing wrong with a job. That's not what I'm saying. Ain't nothing wrong with a career. But ain't nothing wrong with having something on the side either. Nope. Ain't nothing wrong with having three, four, five, several streams of income neither. So I want my legacy to be on building, constant building. Like this don't stop. Like a woman, right? Say we was in the caveman days. There's a difference between men and women. And granted, we both need each other. But with women, they're tapped more into their emotions. We're tapped more into high risk and the risk that we're willing to take. Not saying women, y'all not willing to take risks, but that's not your first jump off. Like you're gonna look at your say house, home, whatever it is that you have. You're gonna do whatever you can to preserve that. You're gonna be like, we cool. Let's not lose this. The man, on the other hand, is gonna be like, yeah, we cool, but I want to build more on this. I want to make sure that down the road we're okay as well. If we was in the caveman days, a woman would be okay. Baby, just grab the vegetation, just grab the fruits and vegetables. All right, if you want to get wild with it, go do a little fishing. We cool with that. Man would be like, water buffalo. So what you think, Mom? I think we can take one. The woman would be like, well, yeah, leave the water buffalo alone. You crazy? Why would you risk your life out there going to go do the water buffalo? We'd be like, let me get my spear. You know what I mean? We'll go down there 2, 3, 4, 5 of us will conquer this water buffalo. We'll bring this back. We say, look, we bring water buffalo. Look, we have clothes. We have blanket. We have food. That water buffalo may last a couple of days, then it start decaying. We'll get our crazy asses right back up out there and go get us another water buffalo. The woman to be like, man, we gotta stop putting your life on the line. Like, I know you love me. I know you want to make sure that we're okay down the road, but we okay with the fish. We okay with the vegetables. We okay with the fruit. Man gonna be like, nah, I'm going to go get another water buffalo.
Yeah.
We'll come back. We'll start realizing because the woman makes the man too. The man makes the woman. Like, you know what? She right, man. I can't keep putting my life on the line. I can't keep risking the things I used to do. I'm talking to today's times too. You know what I'm gonna do? Next water buffalo we get, I'm gonna dig a hole in the ground, put some rocks in it, maybe a little bit of water, and I'm gonna preserve it for a couple more days. Next thing you know, we'll build a refrigeration system. Right? This is literally the cycle. A man will be okay up under a shade tree, my imam once told me. Give a man a shade tree, he cool, leave him alone. He don't need nothing. For that woman, will continue to progress, continue to excel. That's the legacy I want for my family, for anybody I come across. If you are in whatever position you are, June 30th, 2025, inshallah, you live to see June 30th, 2026, you should be ahead of where you are now. I want the family to always say he strove. He was for progression.
Yeah.
And he was selfless. He wanted all of us on that same journey so we can get to the same destination. That's what my legacy would be.
I like that.
Yeah. I want to quick chime in on that. Like, I want to hear what you would say to that same question before I ask my question. I just want a little teaser because I just want to.
Mine's is similar. I think that one of the things, the most important thing is I would want to leave behind is what my mentality was, which encompasses a lot of things. One, that no one loved him better. You know what I mean? God is love, and sometimes people gotta understand is our first ministry is not the pulpit, it's not a mic, it's not a title that a man can give you. It's just simply, how do you express and show love? How do you love on people? How do you love them to their dirt? How do you love them when they're down and when they, you know? And so for me, part of the legacy I would like to leave with my children is that my love was constant. It didn't change based on circumstances, situations, or issues, right? And then when I look at how I do and what I do, it's with a certain mentality. Favorite basketball player is Kobe. We always talk about the Mamba mentality. Take the Mamba off, right? His mentality is what legacy he left behind that is now impacting and transcending across all sports. You'll see a NASCAR driver quoting Mamba mentality quotes. You'll see executives talking about Kobe in the exec world, right? But using his mentality. And what's important about that is, you know, you look at a guy like Kobe that achieved the ultimate success. He was the league MVP. He won finals MVP. He had rings. He had all these things, right? But even in year 18, I believe it was, year 17, after achieving like the pinnacle, right? NBA championship, MVP, all these things, Kobe was still striving to be better.
That's what made me respect.
He was still striving to be a better ball player. So
that's what made me respect.
His mentality drove his success, not his success driving his mentality.
Yeah.
Right? And so if I left a legacy behind for my kids, not just my kids, right? It would be my mentality that I tackled life with, because we talked about all my loss, right? We talked about just the dynamics and coming from Compton, and when you bottle all of that stuff in, right? It was my mentality, because there was many that came from where I came from that is not where I am, and it's not because I'm a better man than them or woman than them. It's not because God loved me more than them or less than them, right? It came down to the mentality that He blessed me to have. And my mentality is not swayed, driven by the things of this world, right? My resolve, and when I stand on business, it's not generated from that. It's not generated from things.
Yeah.
And so I want my kids to understand, and that to be the biggest legacy I leave behind. Because one thing I always tell them is, life will life.
Straight up.
Yeah, I don't care what level of success you achieve. There's
No service members.
every level. There's different complexities and different stressors, right? So you may not be dealing with this, but you're gonna be dealing with something,
Right.
and so at the end of the day, your mentality is what allows you to push through. Your mentality is what gives you the gumption, the stick to itness, right? To say, all right, this is what it is. You kind of like, here's the thing. I tell people this all the time. When you look at anybody that was great, Thomas Edison, Kobe, basketball, Tom Brady, football, right? When you look at their craft and who they became and who they were, right? If you look at, and I meant to get the exact number from Kobe, how many shots he was putting up per day, I would have to assume it was definitely done on some days that he didn't feel like it. I would have to assume it was done on some days that he may got some bad news.
Right.
He was dealing with some bad people. Wife wasn't happy. Kids acting up. Whatever the case may be, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure all of that could have been going on. But at the same time, it didn't stop him from pursuing greatness of his craft, and that's through time, stewardship, because Kobe went to not just Hakeem Olajuwon in his later years trying to figure out his footwork. He worked with Reggie on shot. Like, he did a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
And what was most important to me, it was after he achieved things, which meant it was his mentality. So when you have the correct mentality, whether you're successful, whether it's good or not, who you are and the way you do things don't change. Right. So when from the time I got into, let's say, distribution warehousing, I started off as a packer on a part-time shift. The way I was on time, the way that I worked hard, all the way to a director level at Cisco Foods,
Tell him.
the same mentality,
Same
right?
Director or something?
Same director, right?
Wow.
But it took the same mentality
Mm-hmm.
that me and the diligence I took on those boxes while I was just as a part-time. And this is what I'll tell people, tell people as well, man. Whatever you aspire to be, exhibit those characteristics before you obtain that title.
Mm-hmm.
And so I always held myself in a certain light and in a certain responsibility. And if I leave anything for my kids, and I want people to understand is that Russell held himself accountable. He held himself accountable.
Mm-hmm.
His mentality wasn't driven by things on the outside. His purpose wasn't attached to how he felt, right? Those are the things I want, because I think that's what's going to be important for my kids to survive after me, right? Because mind you, when they lose me, that's going to be a bad day.
Yeah.
But I still need them to understand that God still have a purpose for you.
Mm-hmm.
And me leaving doesn't change your purpose.
And they're before prepared. That's just speaking to Kobe real quick. You know me, I can't stand the Lakers or anything about them. With that dude there, I grew to respect him once I began studying him, and I realized that out of all the greats we're talking about, he was one of the ones that some will argue the least talented. Let me explain. He didn't have huge hands. He wasn't crazy fast. None of you wasn't like just crazy tall or nothing like that. he wasn't crazy big like LeBron and just bulldoze you and none of that. Everything that he achieved, like Jordan, a lot of people don't know, one of his biggest weapons was he got these super huge hands. And you see how my thumb can't go down? His thumb goes down a little bit further that allows him to, it helps him with shot. It helps him with all types of things, you know, and he got a crazy first step. Uh, Kobe achieved everything from straight grinding, diligence, get better. He even bought a. This is something I heard. I can't confirm it because I've never shot on it, but he bought a ring a little bit smaller, so that when he shot into it, it had to be almost perfect to go
Yeah,
in.
yeah.
Right. One of his best after game interviews that I heard him say. I forgot who they was playing. I think it was like game 2 or something like that. Best out of 7 or something like that. They smashed him. They whooped on whoever they whooped on. Smashed him. He came in here like this. He was like, "Oh, you look upset. Like you guys just won. Y'all just blew him out." He said, "Is the job over?" I don't think it's over. Do we beat?
Yeah,
Job ain't
yeah,
finished.
yeah.
What you smiling about? Ain't nothing. Job ain't finished. I said, "Man, this dude right here is different." So
Yeah.
I respect anybody that has that grind, that tenacity, same way you climbed yourself up the ladder, same way I did, and had that purpose and goal and want to leave that legacy for their family. Like I salute too. You can't hate on nobody. You know, God rest Kobe's soul, man.
Amen.
Long live his legacy. My last question. We're gonna wrap it up with this one. Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe. Leave any questions in there that you want to have answered. Like we all come from the same family. I'm pretty sure we're going through some of the similar things. We'll address those on the next episode. And one of the things I'm gonna do to help myself stop cursing, I just thought about it. Do I cuss it? No, I mean, because I'm too intelligent. That's one reason why I want
Said
to.
I ain't gonna be cussing it.
Right. My vernacular is too vast for me to just sit here and be like, fuck shit. You know, I can use other words. I'm going to start charging myself. I'm going to put it in a bucket at the end of the week. I'm going to mail it out to the first person to count the curse words and give me alternative words that I could have used
I like that.
in that instance, right? I get your information. I send it out. That's going to help me. That's going to help you. We both build together, right? All right. My last question to you is this. For some out there that have lost, struggled, at war like you've been, barely holding on, today, what advice would you give them?
Fortify your camp. Fortify your camp. Who you do life with is important. I think what people got to, one of the things I understand in my struggle today is my camp is not fully fortified now. You're an anchor at that. You know, and our dialogue have been consistent throughout, especially in recent months and weeks. But to that person that's out there struggling, feeling overwhelmed, might want to give up, might want to commit suicide, might want to, you know, whatever. It's important when I say fortify your camp, sometimes what you get through and how you get through it will be dependent upon your camp. Sometimes how you fall, how long you stay down there is dependent upon your camp. The lessons you learn when you fall, sometimes it's dependent on your camp. Some of the pitch that you do not fall into, it's going to be because of your camp. Jesus Christ, when he came here, he had to come in man form. Even him, he did life with how many? 12, right? He had a camp. When you look at great organizations, I named Cisco. That's one of the greatest organizations I've worked for. Unify, a couple of ones, right? When you look at the great organizations out there, they're structured properly. It never comes down to one person. Knowledge never ends at one person, right? And so the stronger your camp is, when you are in those moments, because you will be, you will fall, you will get weak, the devil gonna hit you with some blows, and you know how when you get hit in the stomach, that stomach punch. You know what I'm saying?
Exhale.
You automatically drop to them knees, right? You gonna experience that. Now here's the difference, and it's just to put it in proper context. If I'm in a fight or a battle, right? Obviously, if I got my homeboys with me, the fight is different when I don't. Right? How many blows I may take is gonna be different. The outcome of that fight might be different. And so I learned that sometimes when I stayed down or when I was in a prolonged trial, right? A lot of times is I didn't have the right person in my ear. I didn't have the right person speaking life into me. And outside of that, if you look at scripture, right? I believe it's in Luke chapter 5, around verse 17. There was a story of a man that was paralyzed. He was completely bedridden, right? And in this story, there was Jesus Christ was teaching. He was talking to some lawmakers and some other people, and he was pretty much had a multitude of people surrounding him. And mind you, this man is paralyzed. He can't move. He can't walk. He can't get up. He believed in God. He believed that if he can get to him, he could be whole, right? But he didn't have the ability or the means. And so if you read those passages of scripture, I believe it's Luke 5:17 through like 30 or something like that, you will find that the man had 4 friends, right? And these 4 friends took him in that bed, hoisted him on top of a roof, put a hole in the roof, and wheeled him down to Christ, right? Now, what are you saying? What I'm saying is find your circle and fortify your circle with individuals that will be that intentional, right? To get you to God, right? That will take their time. Now, mind you, I don't know if you've ever been a pallbearer. Dead weight is heavy. Okay, when someone can't hold their weight and they become dead weight, I don't care if they weigh 180 pounds. When they become dead weight, they feel like 280 pounds, 380 pounds, right? And so just imagine that. Put that in this proper context. These 4 men, based on what they wanted to be done for their friend, not for them. They didn't hoist them up there because they needed that. They didn't take their time and their energy, right? And they did that for him. And so what I'm saying to you is this: if you're down, you just may need the proper 4 to lift you up on that roof and get you to God, right? When you don't want to pray, you just need that proper friend. Hey man, I'm man, look, I ain't feeling it right now. And we'll pray on your behalf and intercede for you, and fast for you. You know what I'm saying? So I understand, and that's why I don't. We talked about it earlier and about the church hurt and everything. Church does have a place. The whatever you go and you go into worship have a place, because we should be doing this life together. And the more we are unified, the less that the Bible says, where there's 2 or 3 gathered, I'll be in the midst, right? And so there's power in numbers. And when you look at how we go through it and what we go through, sometimes it's a clear reflection you don't have a proper circle, right? Again, we're all going to go through, but how long you stay down, what you experience while you are down looks a lot different when you have a strong circle. And again, this man is part of my circle. I've had others, I've lost others, right? And so I feel my circle is not complete. And I can see where the enemy he finds ways to isolate outside of my circle, right? Because what he can do to me when I'm alone is a lot different than what he can do to me when I'm bonded. When I'm bonded with believers and those that are like-minded and striving for the same thing. So that's something I would tell: do not do it alone. And whether it be If you need to go get mental health, I see a counselor weekly. I'll just tell you that right now. I see a counselor weekly. Mental health is key. And it doesn't matter if you're a spiritual person or not, right? Mental health, there is, the Bible says it's first natural, then spiritual. So you have to deal with the natural man, and you also have to deal with the spiritual man. But one thing in both instances, spiritual and natural, you don't want to do it alone. You do not want to do it alone. So don't let the devil isolate you and whoop on you. When you weak, call your homeboy.
There you go.
Call that prayer warrior. Call that, and again, watch who you call. Watch who you call. Watch who's in your circle. You know what I'm saying? Because again, that circle, will dictate how long you'll be down. And if that circle's not willing to do what those 4 men did for that man, should they even either be in your circle?
Cut them off.
Cut them off, right? So again, we sometimes you're as strong as your community. That's why I think kids, generations were different 20, 30 years ago, 40 years ago than it is now, because it used to be the community, the neighborhood would help raise you.
Yeah,
You walk by a window and grown folks saw you cussing, boy, like my best friend, Mama Weathers, love you, right? That's how I met her. I was downstairs, I never met that lady. I was downstairs cussing my little butt off, right?
Snatched you up.
And the first time she said, boy, I don't know you, but I'll whoop you. And then I'm gonna go down there and tell your mama so she can whoop you up, right? And so, and you don't have that no more, right? But individuals that was raised in that type of environment, right? Correction was consistent. And I think this generation is allergic to correction, right? And that's because you no longer have that balanced mentality. A parent with today's complexity, a parent is working probably 8-10 hours a day.
Yeah.
You sleep 8, right? So you're only in your kids for a snapshot of time, right? So I get it. It does take a community, but again, we don't have that anymore. And so, yeah, man, that's kind of where I would leave that one, man. Definitely.
Wow. Yeah, it's heavy, man. Take part of those jewels. Well said. Oh, damn, we got these mics off the whole time.
I'm about to say, yo.
Nah, you gotta laugh, man. Laughing is good for the soul, man. So, if you guys like this, man, make sure you comment, like, and subscribe, man. Pass this on to somebody, man. You never know; it may be encouraging to them, man. Don't just hold this wisdom to yourself. You'll pass on senseless mind stuff all day long, man. Let's uplift our community. Let's make this go viral. Let's make wisdom sexy again.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Let's make knowledge sexy again. Pass this on so this type of knowledge can go viral. All right. Make sure you leave also in the comments what you would like to see us discuss. We're gonna come up with some more content like this all day long. All right, to fuel your soul. All right. Anything last thing you want to say to the people?
Each one teach one.
Each one teach one. Love it. All right. This is First Cousins. We out. Love you guys.